The hardest thing to do for most people is get a deal, right? Once you have a deal, you have the goal. In my mind, wholesaling has now become the thing that is where like, man, everyone should really focus on because the tide has favored them. We created something as an innovation called lead packs that no one else has ever done. And people can get inbound leads for as low as...
What's up, guys? Today we have our first official second appearance guest, Mr. Ryan Pineda himself. Welcome to the show, bro.
Dude, I'm honored.
Dude, so I mean, like we've been friends for a while, and recently you've come up with this new thing called Cash Flow 2.0.
Yep.
And so like one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on is because number one, it's really interesting to me, but you got some really interesting ideas, and I kind of want to just pick your brain a little and kind of break it down. I think it's always more fun when we have like open a discussion and then other people can listen on it, you know?
Yeah,
so.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we've had lots of discussions about how to make money, just period.
Yeah.
Right? But specifically, most of us make our money, or both of us make majority of our money in real estate. So it's like, how do we get better at that with technology, the market, rates, all that?
Yeah. I think a lot of times like when I first started investing in real estate, I thought cash flow was you buy a big rental portfolio and you just live off the residuals, right? So where eventually you have enough cash flow to live your passive life and kind of retire into the sunset.
Yeah.
But I think that's like a lot of people's motivation when they first started investing in real estate. But then the stark reality is it's very hard to build up that rental portfolio from scratch or starting from nothing. So
yeah. I just don't think it's true today. I mean, that's just what comes down to. It's like a antiquated idea. You know, when Robert Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, I keep referencing it. I really need to look it up, like when it was written. But like it was written at least 30 years ago, I think. And we're all still living like some idea from 30 years ago still like actually works today.
You mean like, because the idea is like you buy a house for 30 grand and you rent it for like $1,000.
Buy anything, right? I mean, his whole thing was just like, hey, buy enough rental properties that you could live off the cash flow and you know, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, today is a different day. Properties probably cost 3 times, 4 times as much as they did when he wrote it. The rents have not kept up with the pricing.
Yeah.
And interest rates are, you know, I guess probably interest rates are probably pretty similar to what they were then. But like the point is today, I mean, the average house like here in Las Vegas where we're at is, you know, $500,000.
Yeah,
and it only rents for $2,500 to $3,000.
I think that's a big point to kind of consider is like back in the day, it was a lot easier to find cash flow just from owning the rental properties. And I think even in my case, in let's say 2018 or 2017, it was actually very easy during that period to actually get cash flow. I think over the last 5 or like 3 or 4 years, especially, there's been a big increase in just prices across the nation where the ratio of the price of the house versus like the actual rent you get, it becomes a lot less.
It's so different than 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. And I don't see it changing. See, that's the big problem is people think we're in a time where it's like, oh, well, once they lower rates, well, then it'll count. It's like, no, prices are going to go up.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be all into your house mortgage wise the same.
Yeah.
One way or the other, whether rates go up or down, you know, the price is going to reflect that.
I mean, that's actually like on a small side note is Bigger Pockets. When I first started listening to Bigger Pockets, was huge on cash flow. That's kind of like what they built their reputation. But I feel like the world has changed so much in the beginning. Like when Brandon Turner first started and talking about like only rental properties. I think house hacking still exists today, but it's more of like a pay, just kind of survive, and you're not really making cash flow off your mortgage. You're mostly just offsetting your mortgage, right?
Yeah, you're not retiring. You're not living on the beach. Like, I don't really know very many people that retired, quotes, and living some crazy life based on just buying rentals within the last 5 years.
Yeah.
There are people who have lots of rentals, but they've owned them for 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, all the people who have built a rental portfolio, if they started in like, let's say 2001 or 2008, now they have the cash flow because of like the appreciation or like the rents increase and they still have like all that equity, et cetera. But if you start today's market, your opportunities for cash flow as rentals are a lot more limited.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to just realizing what a rental really is for. I mean, at the end of the day, it's for all the things we just mentioned. Like in the next decade, the next 2 decades, it's going to be worth significantly more. You're going to pay it down and maybe you own it free and clear. And rents will go up and you will get a tax write-off. All of those things make it great 20 years from now.
So it's like a piggy bank.
Yep.
It's like you're saving for the future, but for your immediately daily, yearly needs now is not the same, I guess, product that it was, let's say, like 20 or even 15 years ago.
Right. And that's my point, is that people need actual cash flow in their bank account today. That's how you actually live and survive and live a cool life. And dude, I'm not trying to live a cool life 20 years from now. I'm trying to enjoy my life today. I'm young. Okay. I'm 35 right now. I'm not trying to wait till I'm 55 to enjoy my life. And I think most people listening to this are probably at a similar point where it's like, at that point, your kids are grown. They didn't even get to enjoy the life they want. You're older. Your body doesn't work the same way. You know, you ain't doing the things you used to do.
Yeah.
So how do you actually get cash flow today in the current environment with where real estate is, with all the different business opportunities? That's the question people need to ask themselves, because it's not rentals.
So I think whenever we were looking at cash flow, I think like back in the day, it was a lot easier to get cash flow from rentals. But whenever there's like opportunities are lost, there's always new opportunities. So now there's like social media, there's these like information is more available. There's coaching programs, there's a lot of things more that people can do today than it wasn't available, let's say like 20 years ago, because there was no information, there was no coaching, there was no information on social media. So like, how can people take advantage of today's opportunities and still create cash flow in today's market, you know?
Well, I think more opportunity also it's a double-edged sword. It's like, great, we have so many more opportunities, but bad news is ciphering through all the opportunities. Everybody's confused. Everybody is like unsure of if this is the path or not. People have very low trust. And also too, people have very like low attention spans and like instant gratification.
Yeah. I mean, I found myself finally victim to that too. Like that's, just in general, like I can't watch a YouTube video that's over 10 minutes now, just because like my attention span has gotten so short.
So, you know, at the end of the day, you got to just decide which path is going to be best for me. And so I guess for me, I can only make the case on what I believe is the best path based on having tried everything in real estate. I mean, I was doing Airbnb 7 years ago before it was popular. I've bought hundreds of units with multifamily.
And the thing is, like Airbnb back in the day, because I did some Airbnb we still do some today, but back in the day, it was way more profitable than it is now today.
It was way better. I mean, just to use the example again, 7 years ago when I bought my first one, 2017, I bought it for $200,000 in Big Bear, California.
Okay.
So my mortgage is like $1,300.
Okay.
It was renting for $4,000.
So $1,300 mortgage, $4,000 like rent,
gross rent
for like, yeah,
and you know I still got some cleaners and Airbnb, but like I mean I was netting $1,500 a month, at least.
And then that's across the board. All Airbnbs were doing something similar than that. To that, right? So.
And the price was amazing. The rent, there was no competition on Airbnb, etc. Fast forward 7 years, you know, today. I already sold that house.
Okay.
I sold it for $450,000, I think.
Okay.
So, you know, it almost 2.5x'd.
Okay.
I made lots of cash flow along the way.
Right? So,
but here's the thing. It still rents for about the same.
So if somebody were to buy that same property today for $450,000, their mortgage would be probably around $3,500 or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Especially with today's interest rates, and it rents for $4,000. So like the spread's a lot less. And
well, you will literally lose money. I mean, if your mortgage is even $3,000 and the rents are $4,000. I mean, once you factor in Airbnb, maintenance. By the way, that house when I sold it is in worse shape than when, you know, I first initially had it, right? It's been beaten for 5 years of nonstop, you know,
use, wear and tear.
I mean, it's at over 1,000 nights of stay, maybe 2,000. So yeah, it's got wear and tear. So like you factor all that in and it's like, well, you're not going to make any cash flow on that same exact property today. And the upside is very limited. So like, I wouldn't buy it.
I mean, so it's really interesting because I think a lot of coaching or a lot of ideas were like, let's say like that someone was, let's say, pitching an Airbnb course.
Yeah.
It's like they've had a ton of success for the last 10 years. And it's because of like, let's say the market or things like this, where they bought a Big Bear for $200,000 and they're cash flowing $1,000 or $2,000 per property. But then now they're selling the same strategies or trying to do the same thing today. It's a lot harder. There's like, it's not available.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Like people are so stuck on what used to work or what worked for somebody else. I'm like, that's great. That worked for them 20 years ago. Yeah. You know, I got on TikTok in 2020. I caught the wave and I got 1 million followers. It doesn't work as good today. Like, what do you want? I'm not going to keep telling you to go on TikTok if it doesn't work anymore.
I mean, that's really interesting. I think one of the things I didn't realize in business or in investing was I thought investing was like a long-term game, right? Where like, let's say the stock market, it's like the principles are the same like 30 or 50 years ago than they are today. It's like you find a great company to invest in, you just hold it for the next 20 or 30 years and it makes you money, right? 7% over the next, it made 7% in the past, it'll make 7% in the future.
Yeah.
But real estate or business is so different because it changes over time. And the strategies that worked before is not the same strategies that are working now. It causes us as investors to constantly pivot.
You have to. Like even in Big Bear, back to that example, 7 years ago, it was crushing. So I bought a bunch. I bought like 10 of them. Made millions of dollars on just Airbnb, buying them, renting them, more than almost every guru.
Okay.
And I just don't even really talk about it. And it was great because I just don't believe in it anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And doesn't mean it was bad at the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me a liar for saying 7 years ago, even 5 years ago or 3 years ago that, hey, this is a great opportunity. It still was. It is not today. And even if you tried to buy in Big Bear today, they only allow investors to have one now.
Really?
So that same strategy, the legal side changed because of guys like me. And so but even if let's just say you were able to get a great deal that did cash flow.
Okay.
You have one. You can't even do anything.
Yeah. And I think, that's the thing is really interesting because just seeing how the industry or how the market or the economy or the competition or information constantly changes, I want to see like, what are you doing today that's like the next opportunity? Because if I could go back to, let's say 2008 and jump into Big Bear, I would love to do that, right? Because that was working then. But then there's going to be a time, let's say in 2030, when I wish I could go back to 2024 and do this strategy because it's going to work for the next 4 or 5 years before like the next opportunity comes along.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what it is. I've been in real estate now for 15 years, since 2010. So I've seen lots of things come and go. Now, the act of buying and selling houses has not changed, right? Flipping has always been around forever, right?
That too has been like more difficult in the last 3 or 4 years, I'd say. And I think, and even like talking to some other seasoned investors, when they first started, they bought everything from the auctions. But then, and it was like, you can just pick out a fish out of a barrel. There's like a ton of deals. Then the auctions dried up and they started buying off the MLS. Then the MLS started to dry up and they started doing texting, cold calling. That got harder. There was like online PPC. And then so even the marketing for flipping has changed over the years.
Yep. You literally just described my career. Like I started out in 2010, everyone did the auctions. I didn't have money, so I didn't do it, but I wish I could. I was like, oh, well, I don't have all cash, so I couldn't do it. But 2015, I started off the MLS and I started networking with wholesalers and I got great deals. And then 2018, I start cold calling and texting. Nobody's really doing it, getting great deals. I get sued for cold calling, in like 2019, 2020, and I'm like, okay, screw this. And it had started to already become saturated. And so then I get into TV commercials. Nobody's doing TV. And it crushes for years. And then all of a sudden I look up and there's like 5 guys doing TV here in Las Vegas. And my cost per lead's going up, the conversions are going down, all that stuff. And so then I pivot and I start doing Facebook. And so this year all I've done is Facebook. And it's been doing great. And I expect that it'll do great for many years to come. And then maybe at some point it'll probably, like everything else, get saturated. And it just is what it is. And you got to just pivot as time goes on. So kind of my point is when it comes to marketing for real estate investors, wholesalers, flippers, they're all the same. That is always changing and you have to adapt and pivot. Also on top of that, it's funny because we used to teach our students network and get relationships with wholesalers and stuff. Yeah. And we started to see as more tools and technology came out for wholesalers that you couldn't buy a good deal from wholesalers in a lot of places, right?
Why is that?
Because the wholesalers got too good at finding buyers who will pay retail.
I see. So back in the day, let's say the wholesalers, they didn't have access to the tools to sell their deals.
Nope.
So they could, their only buyers were flippers like us.
Dude, there was no investor lift. There was no online stuff. There was no, all these softwares that will tell you every cash buyer. Yeah. It was always word of mouth. Like back in 2016, I would go to Facebook groups. I would go to meetups. I would go to all these things. And it was like this very hey, dude, the wholesaler only knows me. I'm their only buyer.
Yeah.
Today, with social media, people can watch my stuff, your stuff, whoever, and be like, oh, well, dude, I can get every cash buyer instantly with Wealthy Deals.
Yeah.
And I can just literally pull the data right now.
Yeah.
And so there's always somebody who's willing to pay more.
Yeah.
And then you start to find that these wholesalers are selling deals 90 cents on the dollar, and you're like, how?
How? Because like, as a flipper, you need like 50 to 60, right?
Really. And but people buy it. And then you learn about these things like novations, and you're like, dang, these guys are locking up deals like almost near market value and still making money. So the reason I bring this up is because the tides have turned where, to your point, the hardest thing to do for most people is get a deal, right? Once you have a deal, you have the gold.
Yeah.
Right? Wholesalers are now able to sell their deals for more because less people have deals. They're able to do novations, everything. So in my mind, wholesaling has now become the thing that is where, like, man, everyone should really focus on because the tide has favored them.
So, I mean, like, just breaking this down, it sounds like just over time, like there's always inefficiencies in the market.
Yeah.
And so as a flipper, back in the day, you're taking advantage, let's say there's inefficiency in the auctions because people weren't aware of the auctions.
No one had cash.
You can buy them at a big discount. So there was a huge inefficiency where you could take advantage.
Yep.
Then let's say there was inefficiency in cold calling and texting because no one's getting text. Now I get like text every single day, people trying to buy my houses, right? But then back in the day, there was not a lot of people doing it. So then you're taking advantage of an inefficiency and then you're like crushing on, let's say, texting and cold calling. Now, today, in today's market, flipping is a lot harder because it's hard to find deals. But then if you're using a strategy, let's say like on Facebook, your marketing costs, direct to seller can be a lot cheaper because
way cheaper.
Not a lot of guys are doing it right now or at a high level.
And then, they don't know how.
And then on the wholesaling side is actually like now you have the tools to sell things for a lot more than you would back in the day. So you're taking advantage of another inefficiency that you're solving to make more profit margin on the wholesale side.
Right. But let me also add this. So back to the original question of cash flow.
Okay.
The thing I realized was after 10 years of investing that the number one business that has been the most passive for me has always been my flipping and wholesaling business. I mean,
because you did accounting, you do some coaching, you do other kind of businesses.
Yeah, but the reason I bring it up is it's had the longevity. It's been around from the jump. I've had other businesses come and go, right? It also only requires me to work an hour a week at it. Like,
how is that possible? I mean,
you see me up here every day. Like,
I know, but it sounds like so.
I mean, like, we just have a great team.
Okay.
Like, and it's a business that doesn't require a face. So, my podcast, if I don't work, it dies. If I don't coach and do events and webinars and ads and all, it dies. But the wholesaling and house flipping business does not need me. It will function with or without me. So anybody can do it from that standpoint in that you don't need to build a brand. You don't need to build a product. Like, you don't need to do any of that.
So, I mean, that's really interesting. What do you mean by you don't need to build it? Because I hear people say like, build your brand, find a great product. But then for wholesaling, you don't need a brand or a product.
Okay. So I think after having many businesses, there are three things that I look for now.
Okay.
So if I'm going to start a business or buy an asset or look for something that's going to produce cash flow, okay, there's three things. One is I want something that has massive returns.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want a rental that makes me 2% a year.
Like $200 a year or something.
Yeah. Like
or $200 a month.
Yeah. Like I ain't into that.
Okay.
As far as cash flow, I'm into rentals for piggy banks.
Okay.
But not cash flow. So I want something that gives massive returns. I want something that has minimal risk.
Okay.
So another problem with flipping is, guess what? Lots of risk. I've lost millions flipping over the years because deals go south. They just do. So I want something with minimal risk. And then I want something with minimal time, meaning eventually it won't require much of my time. And also, too, it doesn't take much time to get the thing going and producing and making money. So when we look at wholesaling from that standpoint, massive returns. Yeah, I mean, it's scalable. You're just flipping contracts. I mean, pretty simple. Sales and marketing. Okay. Minimal risk. Also, the least risky thing you could do in real estate. You don't need to raise money. You don't need to take out loans. You don't need to buy anything. It's the least risky thing there is. And then minimal time. I mean, nothing makes you money quicker than wholesaling. I mean, at the end of the day, a flip might take 4 to 6 months. A rental takes years to make you money. A development takes you years. Wholesaling can take 30 days.
That's really interesting. Let's contrast that, let's say, like with another small business. Let's say like maybe like the big thing is laundromats and car washes, right?
Okay, so let's take laundromats. Massive returns. From the standpoint of like cash on cash ROI, I think they can give good returns, but it's not a massive return in that the one location is not scalable, right? Like the location has a cap. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It can make you 10 grand a month. Let's just say.
Okay.
So you got to go buy another location.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to go, and that it's not like that. Like it takes time to find a good deal, find a location, all that stuff.
So even building up your portfolio of laundromats is each one is its own like kind of
yeah. So the return is kind of capped based on a location. Wholesaling doesn't have a cap. We're just trading contracts.
Okay.
And a contract could go make $100,000 this month. You know, there's assignments in Hawaii that do six figures.
Yeah. We paid some pretty hefty assignments for our.
That would make you more on one deal for wholesale than a whole laundromat for the year.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
So that doesn't like they're not comparable in terms of how big they can get, right? Okay, risk laundromat. You go buy it for $300K. You got to put a down payment. You got to sign a lease. You got to have employees. You got to buy machinery. You got to maintenance it. You got all these expenses going in and going out.
So you're taking on a lot of overhead and weight from the very beginning when you own a small business.
Especially a laundromat. I mean, there's lots that goes into it, you know, so there's definitely risk with the laundromat. And if it all goes under, you owe, 300 grand or whatever your small business loan is or whatever, right? And then time, how long does it take to get up and going? Well, I mean, if you started a laundromat, it would take a long time to recoup. Yeah. But if you bought it, then, I mean, it's technically it's going. So, you should be able to start cash flowing immediately. Once again, wholesaling is very quick. Wholesaling like basically costs nothing to start. So I said, you don't need a brand or like anyone can start one today.
Yeah.
There's no capital. Your only risk is the amount of money you want to spend on marketing. And then you could get a deal this week that makes you a lot of money. Like it's just, it happens quickly.
So, I mean, the two things I'm hearing is Facebook ads is like, right now there's a blue ocean where there's not a lot of other guys who are doing it successfully. And the other thing I'm hearing is wholesaling just as a business in general seems to make a lot of sense.
So to go back to the wholesaling as a business in general, I've been in lots of businesses. This is to my point. I've been in so many businesses and so many industries. I've made a lot of money in some, freaking lost a lot of money, dealt with lawsuits and other. The one thing that has always remained has been my house flipping and wholesaling.
Okay.
With very little time from me. And it will continue to remain. It's funny because a lot of people come to our office like, bro, I didn't even realize you still did that.
The wholesaling?
Yeah, I'm like...
Because on social media for other things. Right?
I know, and I'm like, yeah, it's an amazing business. Of course I'm going to keep doing it. And so I think from a business standpoint, I've yet to find anything else that gives massive returns with minimal risk and minimal time. Doesn't exist.
So, I mean, one of the things I think that we see is, let's say somebody tries to start a wholesaling business and they're not successful or they don't see results immediately. What do you think is the cause of that? Or how can someone be set up for success on the wholesaling side?
That's a good question. So I think that the game has now changed finally in favor of anyone getting started. I don't think it used to be this way. That? So there are three parts of a wholesale business, okay? There's your marketing, how we get the leads. There's acquisitions, how we close the deals.
Okay.
And then there's dispositions, how we sell the deals. Two of the three can be automated now out the gate. It used to be you had to be good at all of them, right? So let me tell you about the old way. So the old way of wholesaling was, okay, we got to market.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm on a budget. Okay. So what do I do? Well, I'm going to go build relationships with people. I'm going to go network and blah, blah, blah. Bro, if you're brand new, ain't nobody trying to do business with you.
That's true.
Nobody tells you that. It's like, yeah, it works. If you talk to 8 million people, yeah, it'll work. But bro, I mean, if I'm experienced and I'm the one getting all the deals, if I sell you a deal, it's because I probably sold it to you for way more than you should have paid. That's the reality of it, right? So this networking thing works, but man, it's slow, takes forever. Odds are you're going to got.
Yeah.
So then they say, okay, well, if you're on a budget, all you have to do is outbound. You got a cold call, you got a text, you got a door knock.
But that's
ain't nobody trying to do any of that.
So time consuming, right? I mean, I've done everything. I've done cold calling, texting, and door knocking, and it's definitely like a grind.
And look, I've taught that for years to people on a budget, and it was all you could do. So I get it, and I'm like, hey, suck it up, dude. You ain't got money, you got to do it.
It sucks. It's a grind. It does work, But then it's like very discouraging, and like people will
9 out of 10 fail.
Yeah, it's just because like they don't have the gumption to, okay, I make 1,000 phone calls, I don't have a deal, like I'm just gonna quit.
It's too hard. And so then some people try to get a VA and they hire them and all that. And then, they're spending $1,000, $2,000 a month and still not getting results. Because guess what? There's still cold calls. They don't want to sell their home. You cold called them.
Yeah.
So, okay, marketing has always been hard for people.
Okay.
Right? And then if you wanted to do inbound, like we were talking about, it's expensive.
Like pay-per-click, or let's say like
Facebook, pay-per-click, TV commercials. Dude, you got to spend at least $5,000 a month if you're going to really go after it. And so most people can't start doing that.
It's also a big risk, because the thing is, let's say you spend a lot of money on marketing, but you don't have the sales skills to close. Then like you're basically wasting money, because you're getting all these leads.
Yep.
You're not following up in time. You don't know how to close them. And so actually that's how when I first started, I spent money on marketing to get inbound leads, and I lost a bunch of them. I know 100% because I didn't have the skills to close these leads.
Yeah. So. And so, and it's good that you now have the self-awareness that it was your fault and not, the marketing. But a lot of people think it's just, oh, well, the marketing sucks, when it's reality, they suck. But let's just talk about it. Okay, so marketing has always been difficult. It's just been this weird thing of like, how do I don't have money, but doing these other ways is really hard. So we have a solution to that now, by the way.
Okay.
That can be automated.
Okay. We want to hear about
I'm going to cliffhang it. So, but back to the old way, right? So now acquisitions. So the way we used to do acquisitions was we would go on in-person appointments, go to the houses. We did that literally for years. Now we close everything over the phone, virtually.
Why is that? Just
because it depends on the leads you're getting. So if you get a cold call lead, for example, you have to build trust. You're just some dude who cold called them.
Yeah.
So I got to go into their house now and really build up my trust and credibility and everything else and close the deal. And like, it takes a lot of massaging and all that stuff. So we did that for a long time. Now, because of the marketing being on point, we can close virtually because they trust us out the gate.
Because you have the built-in trust from the marketing.
From the marketing. And I think we're in a different world where people are used to Open Door and Zillow and all these things giving you an offer right now. That's what people expect. So sales is actually easier today than it ever was because people expect to just get an offer quick. People don't want to talk on the phone for 30 minutes an hour.
So this is one of the times where like your short attention span is actually to your benefit, because people have shorter attention spans, but this also applies to when they're selling or buying, because they just want a quicker solution. They don't want to cut through the BS. They don't want to do the long rapport building in the relationship.
Yeah. And like, let's just even go back to the old way, right? The old way is everyone saying, hey, cold call, text, pull a foreclosure list, pull this, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That person's getting hit by 800 people.
Okay.
Because everyone knows who's in foreclosure, right?
Yeah.
They all have the same list. So not only are they getting hit by 800 people, but now you're trying to dig into pain because that's what you've been taught. And so, you're trying to say, hey, how's it affecting you with the foreclosure? I want to help and blah, blah, blah. And dude, it just is what it is. Like, that's how it goes. And then the truth is, I always tell people this, there's a difference between motivated and distressed. So what people have always gone after are distressed people, foreclosure, divorce, all this stuff. I would rather go after motivated people because not all distressed people are motivated. I've talked to so many people who are in foreclosure and you're like, bro, you're going to get foreclosed on next week. And they're like, no, I'm not. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, no, you're gonna, if you don't do anything, and they're delusional. That's why they're in foreclosure.
Yeah.
Right? Then
that's a really good point. I think the distinction between motivated and distressed, because we just assume if they're distressed, they're motivated to sell.
They're not.
But there's a lot of guys who are just distressed, but they're not motivated. On the other hand, you've got guys who are not distressed, but they are motivated, right?
They're extremely motivated. And guess what? That makes up 99% of the market.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, on calls, that's where we're taking calls like, hey, I want to sell my house, but I'm super motivated to sell, but I'm not distressed.
100%. So 99% of people are motivated and they're just not distressed. The other 1% are the truly or not even motivated. They're just like in a weird spot. They're distressed. It might be more than 1%, but it ain't more than 5.
Yeah.
Right? So 95% of people are motivated.
Okay.
And so those people, you know what they do? They just hire a realtor. They take Open Doors offer. They, sometimes they'll take a cash offer. But those are the ones selling all the homes.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who aren't on list. They're not going to show up on a list.
Because they're not in foreclosure. They're not like really dealing with anything. So.
And it goes back to your marketing, right? If I run a Facebook ad and I'm like, yo, you want a cash offer for your home? You need to sell right now. You know, I don't care. I'll buy it if it's brand new. I'll buy it if it's, beat up. It don't matter. Like, I'll give you an offer today. Everyone who comes into that funnel wants to sell. They're motivated. Now, are they going to go sell for pennies on the dollar? Some will, but most won't. So the question now becomes, how can you still make a profit on everybody who wants to sell? How do you still give them a service?
So, I mean, that's a really interesting point you're making, because I think traditionally as a flipper wholesaler, we're targeting like houses that we have to buy at deep discounts.
Yeah.
But then if we can't find a deep discount, like let's turn them over to a realtor or like there's not a whole lot of ways to monetize that.
100%.
But
so like, okay, to bring this all full circle, right? So it all depends on your marketing, right?
Okay.
So just to, I guess, since I don't even know when I'm going to get back to this, on the marketing side, we can now do marketing for people who are on a low budget. In fact, they could have everything they need for $1,000 at a minimum, like leads, softwares, one-on-one coaching.
For $1,000?
Yeah.
That seems
literally $1,000 a month. They could have everything they need. New leads every month, new everything. Entire business in a box. That never existed before.
I've never heard of anything that cheap with that much.
No, it never existed, but technology allows it to exist. So, and I'm talking inbound leads. I'm not talking data. I'm talking sellers who have said, I want to sell my home.
So people who have already raised their hand saying they want to, let me just get this straight. So you're promising people software to manage leads, inbound leads for people who already raised their hand saying they want to sell.
Yes.
And then also some coaching to support it too.
Correct. Yep. And it starts at 1,000. I mean, we have other ones, obviously more if you want to spend more, but like no one has any excuse. Cause I always tell people this, if they're like, oh, I can't afford 1,000. Well, don't be in real estate then. I don't know what else to tell you. Like you don't deserve to be. If you can't figure out how to get $1,000 a month, you ain't going to figure out how to go get 300,000 to buy a flip.
But I mean, so just on the business side, how can you guys afford to do something like this? You know, it doesn't make sense.
I know. I'll get into that in a sec. So let me just bring this full circle. So imagine you had the same leads I have. Okay. Inbound. Sellers want to sell. You now have an acquisition strategy to close it over the phone. Okay. And now the last part becomes dispo.
Wait, but can we walk into the acquisition strategy? What's the acquisition strategy?
So like I said, because they're inbound and they want an offer now, we don't have to play games anymore. Be like, let me go to your house. Let me talk to you for 30 minutes to try and find your pain. They're like, dude, I ain't got no pain. Like, I just want to sell. That's why I hit you up, right? So almost all of our deals are closed very quickly over the phone, okay? Now, here's the key. It has to do with dispo. Before, we had to get deals super deep in discount for wholesale, right? So let's just say a house was worth $400K. We might have to go get it for $300 to $330. If we're going to wholesale or flip it.
Makes sense.
Well, there's still people who will take that. But with something called novation, we can now pay $360 and still make a good profit. So this severely changes the acquisition strategy, because when you can offer way more than everyone, it's way easier to lock up deals. You know, how many deals do people not get because it's like there's a disagreement on price? That's the majority of deals.
I mean, like 90% of the people we talk to we can't agree on price because we were offered so little.
Correct. And so if you could offer almost market value and still make money, and you're not offering to list it, because a lot of people, they're calling, they're like, bro, I don't want to list it. So what innovation basically does is it allows you to wholesale it on the MLS to a retail buyer. So now instead of having to get such a deep discount to sell to an investor, I go straight to the MLS.
How does that work? I've never heard of it.
So the way it works is that here's the sales pitch, because we're talking about acquisitions, right? So say this property, we'll role play right now.
Sure.
So yeah, you got a property, it's worth 400.
I've got a property for 400. I submit my things. I want to sell my house.
Hey, I'm like, Daniel, you want to sell your house? Like, you still interested?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, cool, man. Dude, how much are you looking to get out of it? Like, I'll literally ask you that out the gate.
I mean, I'm seeing markets. I mean, the houses around my thing is going for about 400.
400? Okay. Yeah, so how much are you looking to get for it?
I mean, it would be nice if I could get 400.
Well, I mean, obviously, even if you got 400 listing it, you're still going to pay realtor fees. You're going to pay commissions, repairs, all that. I mean, you're going to pay at least 10% in fees. I mean, that would mean you netted, say, 360.
Yeah, true. So, I mean, if I could get 360 or like close to that, I'd be pretty happy.
Okay. So here's the thing. Obviously, an investor isn't going to pay 360 for it because they got to make money.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm looking at your property, or I'm looking at the comps now. It looks like investors are probably paying, they're paying, looks like, man, 280 to 320.
Okay.
I'm guessing that's probably not, I mean, is that something you would do?
I mean, I'd like to get a little more than that if possible.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. I mean, when you say that, like if I could give you a cash offer where we can close quick, you don't have to fix anything, pay no fees, everything, like, what are you willing to pay or take?
I don't know. Give me an offer.
I mean, if I was able to get you like the 300 that these guys are getting, is that something you would take?
So I'd like a little more than 300, let's say.
So what does that mean?
Let's say 330 or 320.
Okay, 320. Okay, so if I was able to get you a cash offer for 320, is that something you would do today?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So to cut here, in this scenario, we would be on the phone with them right now, and we would send them a contract while we are talking to them.
Okay.
So with our software that we give students.
Okay.
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
We have a one-click contract that they can get.
So if they're on the phone, they just click a button like the
because we already have their information as we're talking, right?
Because I submitted my information.
Yeah,
to
we
you
already
for
have your name, we already have the address, and we're able to cross-reference. So we send a contract, and literally, if what you just did, I'd say, hey, Daniel, okay, so 320 is what you're willing to do. Okay, let me get this straight. When do you want to close by? I'd start taking the details for the contract as I'm doing it. And once I'm done, I'd say, hey, Daniel, what's your email, dude? Okay, is this right? Okay. Cool. Hey, check your email real quick. Let's go over this.
So I put in my email. It's okay. There's a DocuSign document inside there. Okay.
And we literally go through it together and get you to sign right there.
Wow, that's a really efficient and sales process.
Yeah, that's the sales process that we use now on every single deal. But let's just say you weren't that easy.
Okay.
You were like, hey, no, dude, 360 is what I want to be.
Okay.
So let's say that. Okay. So you're like, no, dude, 360 is what I need.
Okay, 360. So let's go 360.
Okay. All right, here's the thing. Like I said, I mean, investors aren't going to pay 360. I mean, it's just they're not going to make money, right? But let me ask you this: do you care who buys your home?
Not really. Yeah, I don't care.
Okay. If I was able to get you all the same things with the cash offer you're looking for, like, you don't have to pay any realtor commissions, you don't have to fix anything, you don't have to worry about any negotiations, like I could get you this price. Would you be okay if I could get you 360, if it took a little bit longer, like 60 to 90 days?
100%. Yeah, sign me up.
Okay. That's literally the pitch of a novation.
Okay.
That's how we do it. Because here's what happens is a novation is us simply taking control of their property on their behalf and doing everything for them. So they don't have to hire a realtor. We are going to hire a realtor on their behalf. Okay. Just back end, what happens is we get a flat fee broker to list it. Costs us like $400. We still got to pay a buyer's agent for whoever brings us the buyer.
Okay.
So that's 3%. So that's $12K. We still got to pay like 1% in closing costs. That's $4K. So we got $16K all in so far. And then, whatever, right? Let's say you got some repair requests, some credits, all this stuff. Let's just say you get $20K in expenses, but you get that $400K market value.
Okay.
Well, now $400K minus 20 is $380.
Okay.
I already got a deal with you for $360.
Okay. So you make $20K in this particular situation.
In this situation, I make $20K.
And I'm basically getting my market value for my house.
And I'm giving you market value. And guess what? You don't have to deal with realtors, repairs, negotiations. You just get the simplicity of like, I'm going to get the 360. They're going to take care of the rest.
I mean, at a surface level, it sounds like amazing deal for me as a homeowner and for you as an investor.
Everyone wins. It literally makes everyone win. So this is why it's so important today to know the full scope of marketing, acquisitions, and dispo. Because think about this. If I'm able to market cheaper and better than everyone else and still get motivated sellers who want to sell, who are easier to deal with too. They're not in foreclosure and you're dealing with all this crap, right?
I mean, so the thing is like your pool now expands because
My pool's 99% of people.
yeah. So I mean, in the past it's like, okay, we closed 1 out of 15, let's say phone calls that we have or et cetera, or appointments.
Yeah.
But then now if you can give the people like close to market value even.
Oh
then,
my
like,
gosh, it
9
makes
out
the
of-
sales way
9
easier.
out of 10 will be closed, but it all depends on your disposition. So as long as you can dispo them at a higher price,
Yeah.
it completely affects the whole process.
Right.
So,
Well, and we know what it's worth with just normal market value.
Yeah.
We know we're going to sell it at 400. Like we know it's worth that. And then, if we do the wholesale route at 320, we have so many tools available to us today to like find every cash buyer there is who's willing to overpay. So all in all, this is the reason I say the wholesaling business is more automated than ever and can bring more cash flow than ever, is because number one, if you already could get inbound leads without having to do anything.
Okay.
You just strictly say, hey, here's how many I want to buy.
Yeah.
Right? Boom. Your marketing is now automated. You have to do nothing. You don't need a brand. You don't need ads. You don't need to do anything. Then if we say dispo's automated because of things like novation, where it's like, yo, all we got to do is throw it on the MLS. I don't even need to look for buyers. I don't need to call people. Just wait. The MLS will bring me the buyer, right? So that becomes automated. And then the sales process is significantly easier because you can offer more. You're doing it virtually. You're doing it over the phone. And by the way, you could do this anywhere. Like we have people, or my team included, that are doing deals nationwide now. So we're not confined to a local market anymore.
I mean, so like, you guys are locking up deals outside of Vegas in other states.
Yep.
And is the process the same? How do you figure out like the value of the houses? How do you find the realtors? Like, how does all that stuff work?
Yeah. So a couple of things with the flat fee brokerage we use, they're in like lots of states. So that makes it easy.
Can you break down what the flat fee brokerage works? So like typically when you list your house, you pay like, let's say 3% for a realtor. They'll put on the MLS, they'll, let's say, take pictures, stage it, do all things, and they'll go to like the open houses and show the listing. So with a flat fee broker, how does all that work?
They do everything, or you do everything, essentially the broker would do. So they're just putting it on the MLS for you. You're the point of contact now.
Okay.
And so when agents want to see it, you're going to coordinate it. When agents want to make you an offer, they're going to you.
Okay.
It essentially, I don't even know the best way to legally say it, but you kind of get to become the agent in a way.
So I mean, certain states, is that okay to do? I mean, just
flat fee brokerages exist in every state.
Okay, and then but as far as like negotiating, you don't have to be an agent to negotiate or to do the showings or anything.
Nope.
Okay, interesting.
So flat fee allows you to find brokerages nationwide. As far as the other parts of it, with what was your second question?
So there's the agent, and then how do you find the values of the houses?
Oh, okay. So the value, that's the hardest part when you're nationwide. I'm not going to lie to you. That's the hardest part from the sales process because you can cross-reference, right? We have a software called Wealthy Deals, so you can use that. You can use Zillow, Redfin, whatever, right? And you're just really trying to look at it all and take the same way you comp anything, right? Look at the solds, look at the actives, the pendings, and then just take your best guess. But here's what I tell people. I'm like, look, if you're nationwide, your fallout's going to be significantly higher.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning, I would always err on the side of just locking properties up because you have due diligence, you have all that, and do your best to try and sell it. And if you can't, then you're either going to renegotiate or back out. You have nothing to lose. And be transparent with the seller about it too, right? Like, so we'll get deals randomly in, all types of places, right? And so we'll do our best. We'll look at it. Seller will be like, let's just say we think it's worth 400. Okay. And seller's like, I really need like 360. We don't really know that it's worth 400. We're guessing it could be. But we tell them, we're like, hey, that's pretty high. We don't know if we're going to be able to sell it at that price. We'll do our very best if you want. But, all in all, at the end of the day, if we can't, you get 3 things will happen. 1, we'll cancel. 2, we'll renegotiate. Or 3, I guess there's only 2. Like, we're just going to cancel or renegotiate. Like, one of the 2.
So you tell the seller up front
Yeah.
when you're negotiating in the very beginning?
Yeah. Because we let them know if we're unsure if they're going to, it's really going to be a deal. Now, if we're super confident there's a deal, we're like, no, this is going to be fine.
Down,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really interesting. I think a lot of times when I think wholesalers in general, like it seems like a very deceptive practice because you say, I'm going to do a cash offer for you. I'm going to be the buyer.
Yeah.
And then you're not actually the buyer, you're selling to somebody else. But in your process, it sounds like you guys are actually telling the sellers up front that you're going to be.
Yeah, that's why
finding
people
more
are
buyers.
spooked by novations too, because they're like, oh, well, like, what if the seller sees it on the market? I'm like, yeah, you told them you're going to do that. But that's why a lot of people don't. Like, a lot of people put in their contract, they're like, oh, we have the ability to list it on the MLS. And then they don't tell them they do that.
I see.
And
I
a
see.
seller's like, wait, why is it on the MLS? It's like, oh, well, yeah, the contract said we could.
So it's almost like they slipped into the
Yeah.
contract versus like you actually
No,
had them the
but-
conversation up front.
I just told you the sales pitch. I said, hey, do you care who buys it? No? Okay, cool. Like, it's going to take an extra 60 to 90 days. We need to find a retail buyer. So we need to go on the market, but don't worry, you don't have to do anything. You know, we'll handle all the fees. We'll take care of the pictures. We'll do everything.
Yeah. So what if they're like, why don't I just list it with a realtor?
Well, because then we say, all right, if you want to listen with a realtor, right? As we just said, you might make the same amount, but you're going to have to go shop for realtors. You're going to have to pay both. You're going to have to fix everything up yourself. You're going to have to come out of pocket for all these things. You know, you're going to have to negotiate all these different things, repairs, counters, all this stuff. Like, the whole point of why you wanted a cash offer is because you didn't want to deal with any of that. We can still give you everything you wanted and a higher price. It's just going to take a little bit longer.
So I mean, like, do you guys ever have like the people who are actually like, can you guys just list it for me? You know?
Yeah, I mean, we won't do that nationwide. We'll do it in Vegas if they truly just want a regular listing. But that's like
very. So, but that never really happens when you guys
Minuscule.
are doing the pitching. So when you guys are going over the pitching and the process on the acquisition side, people don't say like, can you just list it for me instead?
no, they don't, dude. Here's what I've realized all my years doing this: sellers, for whatever reason, don't like realtors. And I
found the same thing to be true too. It's kind of like this uncanny.
Yeah.
They just have a bad, I don't know.
They just don't like
phobia
it,
or
right?
something.
For those who are looking for the cash offer, right? I think most sellers are fine with realtors, but those who respond to cash offer advertising have a vendetta against realtors. And so even if they were going to make more money, they're still like, nah, I don't want it.
It's funny, actually. We've come across that when we're
For sure.
giving them options like, hey, like, you'll make more money with a realtor. We're like, I don't want to like have a deal, or I don't want to sell with a realtor. And I don't know why it was. They just like, they dislike them for whatever
It's like a form of racism, but it just is what it is, right? But I also have realized too, sellers just want convenience. Like, they're okay with you making money, and I think about this with like lots of things in life. If you trade your car into the dealership,
okay.
They're going to make money.
Yeah.
They don't buy the trade in to lose.
Yeah. I mean, any kind of thing where you're turning in something used goods for something else, like
But what you're paying for is convenience. Because you could technically go try to sell your car private party and you'll make more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody does it.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, I do it, but I mean, that's because
Well, you're not 99% of people, right?
Yeah.
99% of people value convenience.
Well, I mean,
above
I
all.
think that's the one problem we have as investors is because, like, for me, I'm like, I would never trade my car into a dealer because at least back in the day when I wasn't making money, I was like, why would I do that? Because I'd rather like list on the market, I can make more money. And so like when I put myself in that shoes, I'm like, why would a homeowner?
Because
do the
that's
same
why
thing,
you're
So-
successful. You think like the 1%. You got to think like the 99% when you're creating marketing and building a business. The 99% don't think like you. Whenever I meet entrepreneurs who are like, dude, I'm afraid to hire this person because they're going to steal my business and start their own. I'm like, no, they're not. They're not. There's only so many entrepreneurs. Everyone else is an employee.
Well, I mean, break that down a little for me because I mean, we have that same thing where like when we hire somebody, we feel like they're like why don't they just take everything that we know? I mean, they're learning and just do their own thing,
Yep. And you think that because that's how you think, but they don't think like that. People think like most employees they don't want to deal with running every aspect of the business. They don't want to hire people. They want to know that they're going to have their consistent check, their consistent leads, their consistent whatever, be in a place that is going to figure out those tough pivots and decisions for them.
So so when you're looking for like cash flow 2.0, as we're talking about it, it sounds like it's like almost like a business in a box where everything is laid out for you to kind of basically, as long as you take the action, it seems like it should succeed.
Yeah. So like, here's my thing. I said you could start this business for $1,000 a month. I don't know. You can't start a laundromat for $1,000. You can't start flipping houses for $1,000. You can't even do a rental for $1,000. I mean, like even if you were to buy a rental, you got to put 20% down. And even if, let's say, you got into it and you did a burr,
Okay.
you have no money into the deal.
Okay.
You still have a mortgage.
Yeah.
That's thousands per month. So technically, running that business costs you thousands per month. Because guess what? If it's vacant, you owe thousands per month. So my point is, I don't know of any business for $1,000 a month that you could literally
Just start on your own.
and have the upside that wholesaling has, where you could go make 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month.
That's really interesting because there's a lot of businesses that you can start on your own. Let's say like selling jewelry or like these like small
You got to buy
things.
inventory still.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like the upside is not there.
No, there's
Or
no
like,
upside.
yeah.
You start a lemonade stand. What's your upside? I mean, even people tell me like flipping couches. Like, Ryan, would you flip couches if you were me? And I'm like, no, I would do this. It's just, this didn't exist when I was
Yeah,
flipping couches.
yeah.
And it's like, even if you flip couches, think about it. You need a truck, you need storage units, you need capital to go buy, inventory. You need a lot of things. And granted, it's not a lot of money. It's a few $1,000.
Yeah.
But I'm legitimately telling you, you could have leads, software, coaching, community, everything for $1,000. And we have people already. We just started doing this a month ago, beta test with all the new people. We've already had people get deals first month. We have people already close deals, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
In your first month.
Yeah.
We had one guy close a deal for $30K. He spent $1,000. I don't know. It's pretty good.
No, I mean, it's at a glance. I mean, just from listening the way that you're talking and explaining it, it seems to just make a lot of sense. I'm always skeptical because there's always like an angle where people who are good at sales, I think you're a very good salesman.
Yeah.
That you can make something that's not so great sounds great.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, where's the holes? Where are the things, the nuances that you have to kind of watch out for?
I would say the holes with this business are, number one, you got to actually sell. And the reason people like wholesalers and referrals, because they don't have to actually do selling.
What do you? If you buy from wholesalers
The deal's already there for you to say yes or no to. You don't have to negotiate. You don't have to structure it.
So I mean, as a flipper, there's a lot of flippers who are like, I don't have to deal with marketing or outbound. I just want to buy from a wholesaler.
Yeah, so that would be the negative.
I don't have to deal with homeowners.
Right. So that would be a negative. And I would argue that, once again, back to perspective, if you're a flipper and you buy deals,
okay,
you're risking literally whatever the amount of the deal is.
Yeah.
You're risking $1 million in Hawaii.
Okay.
Dude, I flipped hundreds and hundreds of homes. I'm not anti-flipping, but I'm just saying it ain't free. You got the deal for free.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You are now risking $1 million to flip the deal. And you're spending $10K a month on interest. And anything can go south at any moment.
Yeah.
Contractor.
It's flipping, so it's not for the faint of heart, but it's like you're choosing your heart.
Well, you're choosing your risk.
Yeah.
The risk is I don't spend anything to get the deal. And I don't have to talk to a seller. But guess what? I take all the risk on the back end.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Just choosing where the difficulty is it in the acquisition side, or is it on the actual the fundraising and managing the project and the ARV?
And my point is the front end has significantly less risk. And I would argue actually significantly less work. Because we know flipping a house on the back end, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, that is true. But so like going back to like, let's say like the whole system of the wholesaling side.
Yeah.
Like what else do you need to kind of watch out for? So like if you don't like selling, maybe that's like it's not a good fit for you.
But you can hire somebody.
Okay.
That's the other benefit of like, at some point it can be truly automated because you would hire a salesperson.
Okay.
All you need are salespeople because you don't need project managers. You don't need to raise capital. Literally all you need are salespeople. That's all the business is.
That's what a wholesale business is.
It's just salespeople. It's salespeople on the acquisition side and salespeople on the disposition side. There's no.
What do you mean by salespeople on the disposition side?
Because you got to go sell the deal and find. You got to negotiate with a buyer and get them to pay as much as you can. But yeah, the marketing's automated now. So you don't even have to learn how to be a marketer. You just decide how many leads you want.
And then where can we buy leads? Is it, because there's a lot of different companies, right? There's pay-per-click, there is, you buy leads. I think there's a lead, you can just buy leads from companies. I know you guys sell some leads.
Yep.
What's like break us down like the different kinds of sources of where we can just buy leads?
Well, like I said before, I think in our coaching now, we provide literally business in a box. So I think you'll have a link to it down below for Wealthy Investor. But like they can literally just get it all. So they don't even need to like have separate things. Softwares, leads, coaching, all that stuff. They can just get it all. As far as buying leads goes, I mean, this goes back to the original problem. Okay. So if we were to go back to marketing and why most people fail at it, first, people can go do outbound.
Okay.
They can hire a VA, pull list, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That costs time and money. We already decided we don't want to do that.
Okay.
So now you say, okay, well, I want inbound motivated seller leads. Well, like you said, PPC. You do PPC, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's expensive and it also takes some nuance because
you gotta learn it.
We got to run. We run our own PPC.
What's your cost per lead?
It's like over $1,000 per lead. So.
For one lead?
Yeah, for one lead.
Okay, so I don't know about you, but like how many people are willing to put I'm saying they could have the whole business for $1,000 a month. You're getting one lead.
Yeah, 4,000, and that's after we optimize our campaign.
Yeah, that's not counting your labor.
I spend like hours learning and experimenting.
Yeah, you would have to pay somebody to do it too, an agency, right?
Normally, yeah. Normally
so if you're going to go get inbound leads, okay, assuming you have a budget, you're going to pay an agency.
Okay,
PPC, Facebook. I have my agency. You know, anyone can do Lead Kitchen. But you know, you're going to pay an agency anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
Like
just to run your marketing for you.
Just the agency. We're not talking your ad spend.
Okay.
Then you got to spend ads on ad spend. And it's like, well, dude, if I'm paying an agency $3,000, I better at least be spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Yeah.
So you're all in on inbound for $8,000 a month.
I mean, that's a good point because let's say you're paying an agency $3,000. If you only spend $500 on marketing, you got a $3,500 marketing budget, but then it's not worth your time. So there's a minimum amount you have to spend in the marketing itself.
We make our clients spend $5,000.
Okay.
We will not take them on.
Okay.
Because it's just not good for them.
If we're hiring you as our agency.
Yeah. So you know, there's that, and then the other part of it is, okay, so clearly to have an agency, you better be willing to spend $5,000-$10,000 a month.
Okay.
Right. So what does the people do if they can't spend that? They can only spend $1,000, $2,000. Well, literally to this point, the only other innovation has been pay per lead.
Okay.
And so people have been, you know,
we bought from those before too. Typically, I think the pay per lead is like $300 or $400. I mean, it matters on your market, but like around that range, it can be up to like $800 or $900 depending on like on the lead.
Yep. And there's so many companies out there, so it's hard to say who's good, who's not, who's ethical, who's not. Like I don't know. Like at the end of the day, pay per lead is just simply I'm going to pay per lead I buy.
Yeah.
So you say, oh, if Vegas pay per lead is $400 and my budget is $2,000, I can buy 5 leads. Like it's tough. But yeah, I mean, we created something as an innovation called lead packs.
Okay.
That no one else has ever done, and people can get inbound leads for as low as $10 to $15 a lead.
So inbound leads for $10 to $15 a lead.
Yep.
That does not make like how are you guys making any money on that?
So there are a couple of things. One is they're nationwide, so they're everywhere, right? So you know people.
So I can't just choose like, hey, I want to get.
Because then I would say you're now an agency.
Because if I could get $10 to $15 leads in Hawaii,
it'd be great, right?
Like
it'd be great. I mean, you might get one in Hawaii, but there's no guarantee. Like they're all just packaged differently, right?
Okay.
So number one is they're nationwide. So that's one of the catches. Number two, they're non-exclusive, right? I mean, to your point, right? At some point, if you're getting a fresh lead just exclusive to you in Hawaii, it costs you $1,000.
Yeah.
Here in Vegas, I mean, it would be anywhere from $200 to $800.
Okay.
Right, depending on your marketing source. So clearly, you can't do that. So essentially, by going non-exclusive, you and others are subsidizing the lead costs together. And pitching in. And this is what has happened for a long time. I mean, like Zillow has been doing this forever, right?
I mean, how are
well, like Zillow, you know, when they give realtor leads, for a lot of their different programs, they're non-exclusive in that, hey, somebody says, hey, I'm looking at a house in this zip code. Well, 5 people are on that zip code or whatever the number is. And so everyone gets that lead in that zip code.
That's really interesting.
And so now it's a game of who's the best at, you know, selling.
So you're all calling the same lead and whoever gets them first or whoever sells them the best.
100%. So that's how like non-exclusive could work in that front. And I know a lot of pay per lead companies do it that way as well. Because that's the only way to get inbound costs down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering from the business aspect of it because, like, let's say we pay $1,000 a lead, or it's probably cheaper in other
So essentially, like
so.
what I did was, we have tens of thousands of leads.
Okay.
you know,
From
my
over time, you
business.
just accumulated them.
Over time. And now that we have this, we're spending even more to just create lots and lots of leads. So essentially I've had like all these leads in my database that have never, you know, just aren't getting hit because my team's producing so many leads every day that we hit just the new leads. So one day I was like, why don't I just package these up? Because clearly there's money in them.
But these are leads that people like they submitted a form and said they want to sell.
They're
their
all
house.
inbound. They're all inbound.
That's a big distinction because an inbound lead is very different than a cold call or a text where you're reaching out.
I don't want any of those. I don't want any of them.
But I mean, it's like 100 like cold calls, or it goes like one inbound lead basically, or something along those lines. Or if
No,
more.
but they might equal one lead, but even then it's not even an inbound lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said yes, but they're not. There's a difference when somebody sees an ad and they say, yes, I would like a cash offer on my home versus I'm calling 100 people out of the blue and I'm like, you want a cash? No, 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 no. Yeah, I guess.
I see. Yeah, yeah.
They're not the same.
That's a good point.
So I would rather have, me personally, an old inbound lead, like way above any kind of cold call lead that's like somebody. Because here's the thing with cold call leads anyways. They're non-exclusive to begin with. Back to the whole deal with foreclosure. If somebody's in foreclosure, how many people have that lead?
Yeah, they're all calling the same list.
Everybody is calling that same lead. So when I tell people who are on a budget who are like, oh, well, you know, I don't know about non-exclusive. I go, buddy, everything you do is non-exclusive on a budget.
Yeah,
The MLS is non-exclusive.
yeah,
Wholesalers are non-exclusive.
Yeah.
They're blasting it to everybody. Cold calling is non-exclusive. When you're on a budget, you don't get to have an opinion or a right about exclusive leads.
I think that's some of a delusion of like, I think when you're starting out is not understanding like what you deserve for your time or your money.
Yeah, and I literally tell that to new people and they get it. Now, like hopefully if you're still here, like you get it now. But I say it kind of in a mean way, I should say. But I'm like, you don't get to have an opinion. Not when you're not on budget, your opinion means nothing. It's just the truth.
Yeah.
But you know, if you want exclusive, you can have it. But you got to pay $5,000 to $10,000 a month. You got to pay $1,000 for a lead.
Yeah.
$500 for a lead. Yeah. That's what it takes. And I would argue when you're new, never do that because you're going to burn the $1,000 leads.
I mean, like I said, I've done that. When I first started, I burned money and I talked to sellers. I got contracts signed. But I did not have to disclose. Yeah, I couldn't close things. So
I would rather you have 50 inbound leads that are older, that are non-exclusive, so you can learn how to talk to people.
When you're first starting out, especially.
100%. I mean, we still do it today. Like people who are experienced.
I feel like that would be a good coaching program. So like basically, or training program for your team, right? So you're like, hey, we got a new sales guy coming in. You're like, hey, we're not going to give you our good leads. Here's like some non-exclusive leads nationwide. You cold call them and lock in some deals.
We literally do that.
And then as they progress and like you can train them to,
you can start getting some of the better exclusive leads.
Yeah.
And that's how we train our students. So like in our agency with Lead Kitchen now, we give them these lead packs as well. And so maybe they're only getting say 30, 40 leads a month exclusive with their marketing. But we say, hey, we're also going to give you some packs of non-exclusive. Have your team like hit these because they're, you know, they don't have much to do if they're only getting one lead a day.
And it's way more. It'll be way more. I guess. Like it won't be as demoralizing when you're calling the inbound leads because when you're calling like cold calling, like 90% are like, F you, like don't talk to me. Why are you calling me? Do you get hung up on, right? But the inbound leads, at least at one point in time, they raise their hand.
Yeah.
So you'll have a lot more percentage of conversations with people doing that.
Yeah. I mean, like your skills are going to get better. Also, too, and this is what we have found is like people now feel more confident because, like, okay, I forgot to even mention this part. This is what's kind of crazy about what we do versus I don't even really like to talk about it publicly because everyone's going to copy. But what's really good about it is, okay, so let's just say you start cold calling.
Okay.
You might get one lead a day, right? Like, or, you know, let's say you hire a VA and they even get you one lead a day, which by the way, makes your cost per lead go up a lot. Because if you hire a VA for $1,000 a month, right? And they give you one lead a day, that's 30 leads for $1,000.
Yeah.
That's like $33 per lead.
And that's like, and you still have to train your VA, you still have to like,
a lot of things and you still got to pull data and skip trace.
Yeah,
And
I mean, that's
like,
really expensive too.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're spending $40 to $50 per lead for a cold outbound lead. It's crazy. I don't. So, anyways, with that being said, what was I getting on this point? What makes it really good is, so even if you did that route, okay, you get one lead a day. You literally have to spend the next month just waiting for your one lead to come in.
Okay.
We give you 50 today, right off the bat. So now what happens is people are having so much success and feeling really good and getting wins so quickly because we tell them, we're like, hey, when you get your lead pack, text all 50. We have the software for you. Boom, it's included. Auto text all 50. See how many want to sell. And literally across everyone, we're seeing that at least 20 to 30%
are still interested in selling.
still wanting to sell. So they'll text 50 and they're immediately getting 10 people to say, hey, like, yeah, I'm interested. And these people who have tried cold calling and other things are like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anyone say they actually want to sell their home.
I mean, that's a really interesting point because I think like it's
such a quick win.
Yeah. I mean, like because like typically like when you first start out cold calling, texting, networking, it's a grind with no feedback, positive feedback loop results.
No.
But if you can get like something that first day,
Yeah.
where like there's like 10 guys who I mean, maybe they want too much, maybe they don't, but then
Either way, it's a win.
Yeah, at least you're getting a conversation going and there's the prospect of having a potential
For
deal.
sure. And then they're learning how to close these deals everywhere. They can offer more because of novation and everything else. And so they're talking to these people and they're locking up deals. Now, granted, is every deal going to go through? Odds are no, especially when you're new. Like you probably locked it up too high. You don't know what you don't know. But, you know, I would say even if somebody locks it up and it doesn't work out, man, that is such a huge win because they're actually now going through the next step of the process of like, oh, okay, I opened escrow. I hunted for buyers. Okay, I tried to renegotiate. So then the next
There's
deal,
action, right? There's action.
you learn through failure. So then the next deal, they're like, okay, I already know what to do. I've done this.
So I mean, like looking through the whole process, right? There's the you buying the leads, then there's the sales calls, the locking the contract. There's the operations with like either novation or trying to find a buyer. Which is the hardest part of the process?
Well, the marketing's easy. Like you don't have to do anything. So just buy it.
Okay.
So that's easy. I would actually say the acquisition is also easy.
Okay.
Because
you're asking if you're giving them like near market value.
Yeah. So I don't think acquisitions.
And there's a button
very
that you can just send a contract to the person.
Yeah. You don't have to go on appointments. Acquisitions is pretty easy. Dispo is where it gets hard.
Okay.
But even then, if you novate, it's really not that hard.
You just have to coordinate the showings basically.
Yeah.
So.
You're just it's really customer service, honestly. Like really the hard part, I'll say with the hardest part with all this is comping. It's just making sure your numbers are correct. But like I said, I would rather be just lock it up and try and see versus like, oh, I'm not sure if my note, because a lot of people like do that. They're like, oh, I don't know if it's a good deal. I'm like, we have a saying in Wealthy Investor, lock it up. I don't know. Lock it up is the price. But what do you lock it up? Because when you actually list it and you actually look for buyers, they're going to be the true comp. They're going to tell you what it's worth.
It's almost like buying shoes or a piece of art. When you have the buyer sets the price. So then if you have it on the contract where you locked it up, when you're trying to find the buyer, they'll give you the true number at that point in time, and you can either renegotiate or cancel, right? As long as you're upfront with the seller in the beginning, I feel like there's nothing.
No, the buyer's the best comper there is. He's paying for it. Even in Vegas, right? I've been here my whole life. I feel like we know the market pretty good. And there are many deals where the seller wants like a lot. And we'll be like, hey, look, I think you want a lot. We're going to try our very best to get you it. But, you know, it's a lot. It's going to be a stretch. And so if we can't get you it, the best case is we'll at least tell you what people are willing to pay.
You know this, I mean, I wish I knew about this strategy like back, like let me say like a year ago or 6 months ago, because there's been many deals where the seller's like, hey, I want this in my house. If you give me this much, I'll sign a contract today.
I know.
But then like literally I was like, I'm so sorry. I need it at this price for me as a flipper.
100%.
And so like, but in retrospect, if I had a novation or like the wholesaler route, I would guarantee made some money on these deals.
For sure. And that's what a lot of people do when they like look back now with this new model. They're like, dang, dude, yeah. There was a lot of sellers who would have accepted that. And it's like, yeah, I know. But hey, the opportunity's here now.
Yeah.
Like nobody has to, keep doing the same. Because like, here's the thing, right? Like I built my brand off flipping houses,
Okay.
being a guy who actually prided himself on not wholesaling.
Okay.
And dude, I flipped at least 500 homes. Like I bought it, fixed it up, sold it. Now I'm like, yeah, I don't think you should do it. Like, but I also hope that people realize I'm going to do what I think is best at that time. And it may mean saying, hey, I'm not going to do what I used to do because I just think this is way better from every angle. Like no, there's not a logical argument you could tell me that this isn't better than everything else.
I mean, it sounds amazing. I'm still gonna have to like think through this process a little bit more and come up with like I think more questions, maybe probably as we kind of like walk through the process. But
I'll tell you, I already know like the different tribulations and problems that come with it. One is, like I said, higher fallout rate. You're gonna have to get used to that. A lot of these deals will not go through.
Okay.
Because you just are not comping them properly, or
Okay.
maybe you're in a rural area. But I would still say take a shot at it, right? So I mean that's number one. Number two is you know you're now changing the back end risk for front end risk. So you're going to spend money on marketing. Maybe you used to not do that. So yeah, you're putting out money up front versus at the end. So that's a risk. The third thing is, I mean, I guess this would be a negative, but you know, novations they require more paperwork. They're just more logistics
versus wholesale, I mean.
than a wholesale. You know, but I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But that is just part of doing innovation. But I mean, yeah. Other than that, I mean, there really is not much beyond it.
Well, I mean, super interesting. I mean, just thank you for like just kind of breaking it down for us and everything. I mean, I think it's definitely something me and my team are gonna start looking at. But it's just really helpful to just have like a complete breakdown of why and the ins and outs, especially even like the potential negatives and things that we kind of got to watch out for, you know. So
Yeah.
But if people are, let's say they want to like sign up for Lead Kitchen, or they want to learn so much more about the $1,000 for like the whole business in a box, what's the best way to do that?
I would say we'll link to it down below. So, you know, let people know too if you come through that Daniel sent you, so we know how many people came from this. And yeah, I mean, wealthyinvestor.com, and you can just book a call and like whatever, like we'll go through all the options, whether that's running your marketing and doing exclusive leads for you, or doing, you know, lead packs and coaching and everything. We got something for everyone. Awesome.
Well, I mean, I super appreciate the time, and thank you for kind of, you're always kind of spearheading like the new venture, the new initiative. I think like you were actually the one who got me on social media like 2.5 years ago, because you were like, hey, this is a new thing, everybody's got to do it. And I actually listened to your advice, and you got a lot of success from it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of things that you're kind of like, you're kind of shaping the direction of like our team. Like maybe you may not realize it, but like a lot of things that you're kind of like preaching or kind of forge the kind of like spearheading that path, we're kind of following your wake. And so this is another thing that I think is be really cool for a lot of people, a lot of investors, especially who are just getting started, to really have some success and some wins like early on. So appreciate your leadership and just like the cool things that you guys are doing with you and your company. So
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate just everything you're doing and for trusting, and I'm excited to see where it takes you, dude.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. How long were we running for that guy?